I'm Iris Muller. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor and a proud mom of 2 children, one of whom has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is nonverbal.
And I'm Alma Schneider, a licensed clinical social worker and the proud mom of 4 children, one of whom has Prader-Willi syndrome.
In this podcast, we discuss the uncensored truth about raising kids with disabilities.
Prepare to laugh, cry, and hopefully learn something new. This is Two Moms No Fluff.
Hello and welcome to Two Moms No Fluff. I'm Alma and I'm here with my friend Iris. And if this is your first time, welcome. We have all sorts of topics related to parenting children with disabilities, and today is no exception. Iris, would you like to introduce our topic for today?
Yes, very much so. Hi, Alma. Today we are going to talk about pets all the way to service animals. And I know that many people have a special relationship to their family pet, and the relationship might change, grow to the better or worse once you have a child with a disability. We want to discuss that and discuss the different options so people can decide what they want to do if they were thinking of adopting a pet, if they think about getting a service animal for their child. Alma, do you want to start with the story of your own? Because I know this has been a hot topic in your house recently.
It has. So sadly, our beautiful, loving, yet absolutely insane and challenging beagle passed away a few weeks ago. We are all still devastated, but I do want to talk about our journey with him because I think it can be a benefit for others. So, where do I begin? 11 years ago, my family was clamoring for a dog. And I said, not in a million years, because I know that I will do all the work and that nobody will help me. And as much as I absolutely love dogs, and I grew up with a dog, I said, I cannot take on any more. I just can't. I have 4 kids. There's too much to do. And then one day, I remembered that having a dog was the most important part of my childhood. And I got the dog when I was in 4th grade. And I thought to myself, how on earth can I deprive my children of that incredible relationship I had with our dog, Smudge? How could I possibly have a house in the suburbs with a yard and deprive my children of that beautiful love? So I said to my family, we have to get a dog. I went from one day to the next, from one day saying absolutely not in a million years to, oh my God, we have to get a dog. So it was my decision. I knew what I was getting into. I knew that I would have to do the work, but I felt that as a parent, it was going to be a very important part of our family. Little did I know that the dog that we ended up choosing would be probably the most difficult member of the family to deal with and would take probably the most effort out of my day than any of the other people. So what I want to tell you all is that it is of the utmost importance to do your research. Do your research. I chose a beagle because we went online. We had a friend who volunteered at an animal shelter in New York City, and and when she found out we were looking for a dog, she just kept sending us pictures and profiles of these cute dogs who needed a home. And I didn't want to get a puppy because I remember how hard it was when I was growing up, how the dog really needed to go out a million times and it would wake you up in the middle of the night and all of these things. And I really wanted to avoid that situation. So what we decided to do was look for a dog that was very young, but had already been house trained, because they were already, they were out of puppyhood, but that they were still young, that our kids would have a whole life with them, most of their life, because dogs obviously don't live as long as people. Yeah. So we ended up choosing a dog that was 2 years old and it was a beagle. And I did do a little research. We went online and we found that if you're living in, and we chose a beagle because beagles are very gentle and good with kids, but they howl and they bark a lot. But the research said, if you live in an apartment somewhere, in an apartment building, you don't want to get a beagle because they'll make noise. But if you're in a house, it's another story. So we figured, okay, we live in a house, we can do that. So we went to the shelter. We saw this cute dog, and let me tell you that my oldest, who's now 21 and a half, was probably 8 or so when we got the dog, and she wanted a dog so desperately. And telling her that we were getting a dog was one of the happiest days of my life, because she started crying and she couldn't believe it. And she said, "Now I know what tears of joy mean." And it was so fun to be able to tell her that. We get the dog, and this dog is cute. It's jumping all around. What we didn't know is that beagles pretty much are one of the hardest dogs to train and to housebreak.
Oh, no.
So for 11 years, we dealt with a dog who peed and pooped all over the house.
Oh, no.
For 11 straight years. We dealt with a dog who was so traumatized by being in a shelter that he destroyed every part of our house when we would leave because he had such separation anxiety. Mm-hmm. That being said, we love this dog so much. He was so sweet, and he provided so much comfort and so much love to our children that we never regretted it. We do regret having not done enough research, and we do regret that we couldn't make as much of an effort as we would have liked to get him trained, because our kids were too young, and everything we tried to do to train him, the kids would, behind our back, give him food or yell at us if we tried to give him discipline. So that's the bulk of our story. The kids really want another dog now, but I am taking a massive break from having the dog because it is a huge responsibility to have a dog, especially a dog that may not be the easiest dog, and I need a break from having to rush home to have the dog, let out. We had to lock our garbage. We couldn't leave any food around the house anywhere because he was very food aggressive, very, very sweet dog, but if there was food around, he would bite your hand off to get it. And that's a lot to deal with. And especially because I cook all the time, he was constantly trying to get food. As I said, we always had to lock the garbage because he was always trying to get into the garbage, and he would make a huge mess. So I'm taking a break for now. But I hate to admit that we probably will not be able to go the stray dog route next time. We're going to really have to get a dog that is known to be a breed that is that doesn't have all the difficulties. And as a social worker and a humanitarian, it pains me to say that because all I want to do is save every dog in the world. But I don't think we could go through that again.
Alma, first of all, I again share my condolences with your family.
Thank you.
I know what a huge loss it was, and what a huge endeavor it was to actually have this dog, and how much attention. I don't think people can actually understand what craziness like evolved in the caregiving of that pet. It's
Thank you. I appreciate the validation.
Yeah, it was a different story altogether. Now I want to say two things. First of all, Alma, and I don't know if you know that, but as a teenager, I used to volunteer in the Humane Society in Israel.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I learned something new about you and your fascinating history every episode.
So I wanted to say something to contradict, if I may, what you said about the breeds and the research.
Okay.
Sometimes the best pets that you can get, and sometimes even service animals, because I know that even here in the US, there is an organization that trains service animals that they pick out in animal shelters.
Wow.
So it's, yeah,
okay.
it is. Anyway, what I wanted to say is that sometimes those dogs are so kind of appreciative of the rescue that they really become the most obedient and useful kind of pets, because they kind of got a second chance at life.
Wow.
And they know it. But
well, sign me up.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
There are also ways when you go to an animal shelter to kind of like test your choice and see if this dog would be like a good addition to your family or not. Beagles, yes, I don't know. But we as a family, we don't have we have 2 cats that are pets, and we have a service dog, a fully certified service dog. So if you know anything about service animals, there's different levels of training. You can have a therapy dog or an emotional support dog. You can have a facility dog, and at the top of the line, you have the fully certified service dog. That is a dog that can accompany the child, or if it's an adult, the adult with a disability, wherever they go, like to the ER, on planes, restaurants, shows. Our service dog has seen tons of Broadway musicals.
That's right.
His favorite. No, sorry. Anyway, what I wanted to say is that Alma knows our dog. He's a Labradoodle, so he doesn't shed. And some of the doodles and poodles, they also they don't need to pee that often, in contrary to other
Really?
dogs. So it's a very easy dog even to have if you live in an apartment, which we have lived for at least the majority of his life. And he's extremely obedient and kind and gentle. He doesn't bark, he doesn't bite. He would let you do anything and everything with him. And still, my plea to the parents that are listening today is please do consider and do anything you can to avoid taking a pet or a service dog if you're not 120% sure that you need it and that it would contribute to your life in the same kind of, or at the same extent that you would have to invest in caring for that service dog or a pet. Do you want me to go into details now, or should we bring it? Okay,
Sure.
So obviously, the difference in scenario between having a pet is that a pet is a companion or a friend that would wait for your child at home, and that your children can enjoy the company and the friendship of when they're at home. A service dog is actually considered, at least in the United States, almost like, not almost, in some places it is considered as durable medical equipment that is supposed to accompany the person with the disability wherever they go. So you cannot separate, let's say, a guide dog or a service dog from the person who they're helping. There's different, of course, characteristics. A guide dog is usually a leader, and a service dog is usually a follower. And they also kind of sort them to the different programs according to their, I guess, nature. But our dog was trained to do certain tasks for Karen and to help her out in the community and in the house. And among the things that he was meant to do, he was able to pick up objects that she dropped because she can barely hold an item in her hands. So that would be one. He knew how to turn light switches on and off. He was able to open doors, and most importantly, he was able, way back then when we got him and Karen was just 6 years old, to brace in standing, and I would kind of lean Karen on top of him so I can go with her to the bathroom on my own, because otherwise you can imagine at that age, if she needed to go to the bathroom, I had to kind of throw her over my shoulder so I can undress her and sit her on the toilet, and then somehow throw her back on my shoulder and struggle with dressing her like that, because the other option was always to kind of lay her down on a bathroom floor, which is absolutely nasty. And with the service dog, I would just tell him to brace, and then I would lean her over the dog, and I would help her get dressed or undressed, and then help her to the bathroom. It relieved me of like kind of, I had my two hands again.
Wow.
So it was like, as you can hear, extremely helpful. It is the sweetest dog in the world. And yet I'm telling you guys, reconsider.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes, and the reason is that many times the actual help that you receive from the dog can be more easily supplemented by help from the adult that is with the child, or the reality of the quality of service kind of from the service dog is such that it's not maybe, how would I say, it's kind of negotiable whether you needed the help or not. So I'll give you an example. My daughter, for example, she uses a stylus in her mouth to press on her iPad, and she uses markers that she holds in her mouth to draw or to write. And when she drops that, if I pick it up, I can just wipe it with a pacifier wipe and put it back in her mouth. But if my dog picks it up, then I need to take it to the sink, disassemble the whole kind of mouthpiece and wash everything. And it takes much more work. I'm giving this as an example because we had to slowly wean him of the habit of picking those up,
wow.
because it created so much more work to have him pick it up. We were hopeful, for example, that he would be able to sleep with Karen in her bed, and then she'll be able to hopefully sleep not in our bed and still have a warm body next to her. But we very soon realized that because of her lack of ability of moving her head even independently in bed, he was a dog still. And he didn't think about, oh, I'm blocking her airways if I put my head this way or that way, and she can't do anything to protect herself. So we had to skip that. He was extremely helpful in the bathroom for about a year and a half. And then Karen became too tall to actually be able to hang her kind of over the dog.
Yeah.
And we had to stop with that. So I'm kind of like giving you a brief overview of the things that were working and stopped working. And finally, the main reason that we wanted to have the service dog, and I touched on it a bit in a different episode, was that we were really hoping that it would break the kind of isolation situation, that people would be drawn to the dog, and hence would the dog would kind of bring people to Karen. And to that, I have to say that yes, it did brought people over to Karen, but in many ways, it brought people over. The dog brought people over to the dog, and it ended with them giving attention, compliments, and interacting with the dog. And it made the situation with Karen and the fact that they would not talk to her, ignore her presence, or not acknowledge that she is the owner of the dog, even more insulting or severe.
Yeah.
To top it all off, I just want to say, all of this is describing our family situation and not yours. If your child has seizures and you get a seizure detection dog, or a dog that can bark when blood sugar levels change, there's no replacement to that dog.
Right.
There is no person that can bark before a grand mal or do a different bark before a petit mal. There isn't like a substitution for it. And then a service dog would be terrific for your family. But I guess that was my personal take on our experience.
Yeah. And I remember you saying in another episode how sometimes you're blocked. So many people come over to the dog that you're it's an obstacle to getting where you need to go because you don't want to be rude to them and say I really need to go, but it slows you down sometimes. So that's another
Wow, Alma,
downside.
you actually listen to me during these
I
episodes?
always,
Okay.
Iris, I'm open ears at all times because every morsel that comes out of your mouth is like a gem. It's like a ruby or a diamond.
Oh my
I
goodness,
listen,
Alma, I'll pay you
yes,
later for
the
the
edge of my
cookies.
seat, edge of my seat. Um, so you gave a lot of, cautionary tales about getting a dog, but I'm going to go back to the positives.
Yes.
Our dog provided so much for Lincoln in terms of emotional support. This dog was so attached to Lincoln, and would kiss Lincoln, would lick Lincoln. He was the only human that the dog would give kisses to. And I don't know why, but the dog obviously picked up on things from Lincoln. The dog never did that. Shiloh, I haven't given him the courtesy of sharing his name with you. His name was Shiloh. And Shiloh was such a comfort to Lincoln. Lincoln would say he's my best friend, and he would always snuggle up. Lincoln, falls asleep a lot. He's got like mild narcolepsy, and I cannot tell you how many dozens of photographs I have of Lincoln asleep on the couch and Shiloh sort of in the same position, asleep next to him. They would just, sleep together on the couch watching TV. And Shiloh just knew when Lincoln was upset and would come over and would not only when he was upset, he would just always just come over to him and lick him. And Lincoln got so much love from him. And there's no replacing that. I mean, again, this dog, I am not exaggerating. This dog really required a tremendous amount of care and vigilance, but I'm not going to say I would do it all again, but it was worth it for what he provided for Lincoln. So you have to really think about your own life and the whole system of your family, how this dog or this animal, whatever kind of an animal it is, can fit into your family. And because you really, as Iris said, you need to weigh the pros and cons of having an animal because you want to give the animal a good life too. You don't want to, you know, have an animal in your house that can't be cared for, or if you don't have enough money to feed the animal, that you won't have food for them. Like, you really have to think about the finances. We did have to pay every time we went away. We had to pay for someone to watch this dog. And we could have, if we had had a really easy dog to take care of, we could have asked a friend to keep the dog in the house, but nobody, we had to really struggle to find even people who boarded dogs. We were declined, I will say, from him being boarded at certain people's homes because he was so challenging. So, are you hearing the parallels here, by the way, with the child with disability and the dog? There were many, many parallels, and we ended up having to pay quite a bit of money to have people watch the dog. So if you have a very simple, to care for a dog, you can get friends to watch the dog if you don't have the money to board the dog when you go away, or if you have to stay at work too long. But even, people who aren't going away and just have a job are gone the entire day and they can't let the dog out. So there's so many factors to think about when getting a dog. Or I keep saying dog, but any kind of an animal. My kids say, "Well, can we just get a fish?" And I'm saying absolutely not, because that is disgusting to me to have to clean it, because I know I will be cleaning the poop out of that fish cage or whatever it's called, a fish bowl. Um, at least with a dog, you get something back. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't get anything back from a fish. Sorry to say, to all the fish lovers out there. Sorry, but that's my personal feeling about fish and birds. I'm not a bird person. Don't want a bird. So, in addition to that, I would like to add that, not to be redundant, in addition and add, that there are ways to get that love from an animal and to get that contact with an animal outside of the house. There are dog shelters, there are cat shelters, there are classrooms that have pets that you can take home for the weekend. Our local dog and cat shelter allows kids to volunteer. The age has gone up, but kids can come and pet the cats. They can, when they get older, they can walk the dogs. They can feed the cats, and just give them love. So that's something that can kind of, the kids can get their fix, or the adults can get their fix by being with these animals. You can also go to a friend's house. I have friends who have taken in their friends' pets when they go away. So it's like it's like a foster parent for a dog. You can also, your family can be a respite. Sign up for animal respite. If there's a dog or a cat or any kind of animal that is not being adopted, you can be on a list to just take care of that dog for a week or a weekend. And those are great opportunities to be with the animal, but not have the major commitment that is required when you are the full-time companion of the animal.
Yeah, I want to thank you for mentioning all of those options, and I think that every family who's considering a pet should first try like the temporary route and see how it feels like and how it affects their lives. I have to be like very, very honest here. When at least in the organization where we got our service dog, you would go to the boot camp, what they call the boot camp, the 2 weeks in which they kind of train the families to actually work and handle the service dogs. You go in and you don't even know which dog you'll be getting at the end of it. You keep on rotating dogs, and they kind of try to do the best match between a family and the dog. And we got like super lucky. Eli, our daughter's service dog, is the world's best dog, and I am not accepting any other words to describe him. But other families like got service dogs that were as qualified, and they were not as happy. Either, just for the record, Eli has white curly hair. In the videos that we submitted to the organization, my daughter specifically said that she wants a black dog with the straight hair. So you don't know what you're going to get at the end of this process, but we got the exact opposite, but still it's a perfect dog. But other families got dogs that had a shedding problem, or that needed to go to the bathroom more frequently than a regular dog. It was still an amazing service dog, but there was another mom there that at the end of our course, she was absolutely in tears, totally desperate, and knowing that she was handed, I guess, a dog that was beyond her care capability. And that's a real problem, and especially because the process, I am not sure about it in other countries. I'm aware of the process in Israel and in the US, but we had to apply to 4 different organizations, and we also interviewed a couple of private trainers, and we were trying to we did the research, we really tried to make or find the fastest maybe route of getting a service dog, because we were really determined, at least I was, that Karen would benefit so much from having it. And at the end of the day, if you are eager and 100% certain that your family needs a service dog, I would recommend applying simultaneously to several different charities, and go with the charity, because no matter, training a service dog can be around $50,000 by the time you get it, because they're bred for the mission. They're being checked physically. They check their shoulder strength and their eyesight and all of that before they certify a dog. And then they put 2 years of training into that dog, no matter the food and the veterinary care through those 2 years of training before the family actually receives the service dog. So go with a charitable organization and not an organization that would charge you, because between you and I, we all know that we have extra costs anyway that are related to raising our kids with disabilities. And if there is a way to get the dog for less rather than more, go with less rather than more. In addition, a side note about trainers, I want to just give an example from the agency that we received our service dog from, that they would sort out, like only 1 in 4 dogs would actually graduate. But if you take a puppy and you let a trainer train them, they can only reach however much they can reach. You can't later exchange the dog, if you know what I'm saying. So there's a gamble in that process. And when a service dog facility, they have a litter of puppies that are being born. The moment that they're born, at least that's the process in the agency that we received it, they mark them with a nail polish on their backs. So there's red dog, green dog, and etc. And they already start, like within 2 weeks, they already sorted out a few of them because they know that they're not the right type, if that's a saying. And then they have a year of basic training and then another year of advanced training. And they just, throughout the process, they kind of narrow the options down until they have the graduating class, and then they invite the families in.
Wow. And in Israel, do they have to go through the army like you did?
I was serious for a moment. I thought, because they do have dogs in the military as well. Like my aunt, who's a vet, so she actually worked with dogs in the military as well. So I was like taken aback.
And so after they do their military training, they travel the world with their hippie clothes and their backpacks. Exactly. And we see them all over town doing their year of travel.
Exactly. That's the service dogs from Israel. I am sure many people would take an insult in that thinking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the utmost respect for all of you.
No, this is
and all the Israeli dogs.
No, because sometimes in the military, like we call each other like a guard dog, because if you're assigned to, guarding the gates of the base at night, you're a guard dog. So I'm funny. Just like, now it's a guard dog on vacation.
An actual guard dog on vacation.
And that being said, just telling everybody that a service dog would not provide any guard dog services, because they're trained not to bark. So if you have a stranger walking into your house and the stranger is distressed, your service dog would come and comfort them while they're robbing you, but they won't do anything else to help you out.
Well, that reminds me of Shiloh. Since he's passed, we never know when somebody's at the door, because our doorbell apparently isn't loud enough. And so I keep missing people. They keep calling me and texting me like, answer the door. I've been out here for 15 minutes. So it is nice to have a dog for that reason too, if they're a barking dog. And I'm also wondering why you didn't tell Karen when she got the dog with the curly hair, not the straight, that the dog just got a perm.
Because she wanted a black dog and it was white.
Could have dyed it. Could have dyed the hair and said it got a perm.
That's funny. It was like the exact opposite of her description. It was so hilarious.
I'm sorry about that, but you have the best dog. You have the best dog. And if you want to see pictures of our dogs, they are on our Instagram, two Moms No Fluff, and on our Facebook page, Two Moms No Fluff. And I also feel a need to share, as I'm eulogizing Shiloh here on the Two Moms No Fluff podcast, that Shiloh did make his television debut when he was only a few months old on the Martha Stewart show. Very sadly, there's no record of it because we had recorded it and then we moved and the recording was lost. And I have tried for years, if anybody has any connection to Martha Stewart and her old show from 2000 and I don't know when it was, 2005 or 7. It was an episode, they used to have a dog trainer on the show who eventually had his own show. And a friend of mine was the general counsel of Martha Stewart, and they had an inside ask to the staff to find a dog If the staff knew anybody who had a dog that was incredibly difficult, and was destroying their house and needed training. So my friend contacted me and we met with the producer, and the producers asked us all to show up on the show. So all of my children and I were at the Martha Stewart show with our dog. It was such a great episode. The producer did get upset with me at the end because my youngest daughter was only about 4 at the time, and her pants were too big, apparently, and she kept showing her butt crack
Oh,
to the audience as she bent down. And the producer was very upset with me that I didn't put a belt on her. But the audience loved it and kept laughing. But Shiloh was on the Martha Stewart show, misbehaving like he always did. And again, if anyone has any ability to find us that recording, we would love it for posterity. We love our
thank you.
dogs. I mean, dogs just really, they are so important. Animals are so important in our lives. And
Let's
it's,
switch
if
to
you can
cats
do it.
though before we end. Alma, you have to
All
it. I
right.
know.
Not a cat
Alma,
person.
I
Not a
know.
cat person, but I'll let you talk.
Yes, so a few words about cats that are worth mentioning. As you all know, cats require a friction of the amount of time and effort that a dog requires in terms of the care needs. And if your child is kind of homebound for one reason or another, maybe a cat would be a good solution for you. Like we have two cats. Obviously, they don't have anything to contribute beyond being cuddable, cuddleable. How do you say?
Cuddly, cuddly.
Cuddly, yes. But that's the most that they can do for us. So we're basically their service animals, and we just obey their commands. But the fact is that it can provide companionship and comfort to a degree as well to children. And I know that my son, who does not have a disability, like is absolutely in love with his cat that we got from the Humane Society a year ago. That's after our other two cats passed away at age 20. And basically, just again, plan for the longevity of care. So basically, kind of consider your options. We did have a fish tank before as well. I did end up cleaning it for the benefit of everyone. It was a lot of work on my part, and I think the actual enjoyment was very, very minimal. And when we moved, we gave them to my sister, and it wasn't like a tragedy. It wasn't an animal that my kids were like emotionally attached to. And I don't know, again, each family and their priorities and what it is that they are expecting and hoping from a pet. But do your homework, do your calculations of the expenses and the time allocation, and do a practice run. If you have the hopes that your kids would clean, let's say, a litter box twice a day, take a sandbox, just take a bin and have 3 toys hidden in it 2 times a day, and make sure that your kids come back to you twice a day with the hidden toys, which would later be on a bag of poop, from the litter box. But they need to show that they are capable of participating in the caregiving, so you know that you have partners on that journey. Because a lot of kids are very good at saying, I'll help, I promise. And a week later, the promises are gone and you're stuck with 2 cats. So
That was us. That was us. One last thing I'd like to add is that we have to be careful about our children dealing with the pets as well to keep the pets safe. I will tell you that before we had a dog, we did have a fish, and the fish vanished somehow.
oh,
And we later found out that one of our kids, who shall remain nameless, picked it up and threw it out of the bowl. Okay, so committed fishicide. Yeah, do your research. That's number one in all areas of this. So thank you for listening. Please share your pet stories with us, because we and our audience, so that everybody can learn from you, your trials and tribulations, your venting, and your success stories.
And pictures of your
Pictures.
pets with your children or without, that would be fabulous, because at the end of the day, the best thing is those cute moments that make everyone's hearts melt at the end.
That's true. That's
Bye,
true.
Alma.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye. See you next week.
For more information, please go to www.twomomsnofluff.com. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give it a 5-star rating so more people can hear it. Thank you.